Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another property live stream. This one is, I'm afraid, all about the two letters that seem to affect more people in the world than almost anything else. No, I'm not talking about US, I'm talking about AI. Yes, that's right. Artificial intelligence, or some would say no intelligence at all, but we'll move past that. Now, AI, I was just talking to someone. Some people use it for working out what they're going to eat the next day, put together things by taking pictures of their fridge. Amazing stuff. Others use it for simplifying what they do with their work. What are councils doing with it? It's a good question. And Hamish, one I'd like you to answer.
Well, they use it for sending out threatening letters. I think one of the sad aspects is we have a great use. AI really has made a significant difference to a tremendous amount of what we do and what we can do. Unfortunately, it's one of those particular sort of things. It benefits some more than others, and some people are overusing it. We've reached a particular sort of stage, and this has become apparent to me this year particularly. I'm sure lockdown had much to do with it because we weren't able to get out and about and sort of communicate and things. However, we've reached a particular sort of stage that the sort of mass media and this sort of avalanche of sort of stuff that the corporates and all these things do, that people have at long last decided they would like to communicate with each other as individuals and not an avalanche of whatever these things are happening around us over which we have no control. Now, it seems to me that unfortunately, falling in with this as software use, and I'm sure it does save time for an awful lot of things. Isn't it a blessing to have a nice little reminder? Oh, by the way, however, rarely does that happen. It's usually a big intrusion and almost a threat that sort of comes through. And I'm just sort of speaking about one of the examples that sort of came about. Somebody I know, they cancelled their insurance and thinking, well, that's great, I'll get a bit of a refund on this. Then all of a sudden they get a bill slapped on them for £100 or so. And they think, what was this about? I better speak to the insurance company. Before they know it, they get told if they don't pay up, they're going to be sort of taken to the courts, or the money's going to, the debt's going to be put in the hands of the collection agent. Then all of a sudden the collection agent comes on, adds another £50 to it. And before we know where we are. Now, the thing is, that is absolutely sort of absurd. And it doesn't, if you start working with a company like that, they don't seem to realize that you're going to turn around and say, bloody heck, I ain't going to deal with that bleeding lot again. And I'm going to tell other people about it. And we know this, that you'll tell 11 other people on average about the uselessness of a particular sort of company. But they don't seem to sort of realize that. But we're speaking about sort of things generally. However, the councils seem to be adopting the same kind of practice. And what it is a person that sort of, some of us just take it on the chin and say, what the bloody heck, I'll do that sometime. However, vulnerable people take it seriously. And I say vulnerable, I don't know, 40% of the population, I think, are vulnerable at the moment with the way the situation is in society is actually sort of going. So when a letter actually sort of comes through and sort of says, whatever it does, actually, this is overdue, it doesn't take into consideration certain things. It doesn't take into consideration what the payments have been made, all sorts of things like that. It's taken the human element out of it. Is this a vulnerable person? Is this somebody aged 85? Is this sort of somebody who can't even read? These particular sort of things, this is the sad thing about artificial intelligence. It doesn't understand how to speak to people, genuine people, because it doesn't understand people, of course. It's artificial intelligence.
Well, Silas, thank you, Hamish, for that great introduction. Artificial intelligence is only as good as the prompting and the people behind it, surely. And when most councils seem to use low effort prompting. You end up with a drop, or AI drop, I refer to it.
I think that's an excellent observation, Gareth, and I'm sure, like me, you've probably seen many of these AI slop articles that are hitting the social media headlines and all the rest of it now.
It's so irritating. You squint your eyes out there, and it all looks the bleeding same.
Exactly right, and you notice the patterns and the formatting and everything else that AI is using. And one of the insidious things I'm noticing is to pick up on what Hamish was saying earlier, is the inability now of people to sort of think things through in a coherent way. So I was at a conference last week for surveyors, and what surveyors are up against now is people will receive a report, a survey of a property, for example, and the first thing they do is stick it straight into ChatGPT and give me the breakdown. And ChatGPT goes, gives this huge verbose answer, which of course extracts some of the detail from the report, and then the person buying the home thinks that the whole thing's falling down, and then this whole conversation unravels, and you just think, well, there's an education piece here, surely, to sit down with the client and actually go through it as a surveyor. But the point being, it's this default thinking of going straight to AI for an answer. Now, the topic of conversation that we've got here, and to your point about low effort prompting, that there is this laziness of thinking, what am I actually asking AI to do? What parameters am I actually setting up around the interaction with that particular agent? And it's I'm noticing a lot of that is quite lazy, and then you end up with wasting hours in a conversation that isn't going anywhere because it was set up wrong to begin with, or it's grasped the wrong end of the stick. And I am concerned about the amount of data that's being turned over to AI companies that is being trained. So if you don't know what you're talking about, or if you only have a surface level understanding, AI can give you an answer that seems coherent, but is actually a complete fabrication, as I believe lawyers have found out to their detriment when they've gone to court.
Yes, famously, I think a barrister was disbarred, actually, a junior barrister was disbarred because they'd actually done their entire rebuttal from AI, and it was coming up with stuff that didn't actually exist at all.
Yep.
Absolute rubbish.
Yep. And that's it. So the profession is on the line because they've relied on something that was a complete fabrication. And I'm not suggesting that AI isn't going to solve a lot of problems in the future. I think it is. It's certainly going to crunch a lot of the admin and data, but it has to be done and set up and established by true specialists in their field. One of the worrying trends that I'm seeing is more people leaning on AI without that specialism. So you're going to the doctor now, the doctor's already leaning on Google to give you a diagnosis. In another 5 years, that sort of specialist knowledge is going to be condensed down to a precious few people and ultimately eradicated. Case in point, somebody came out with a certain reaction that was very, very specialist, went to the doctors, got some testing, couldn't quite put the finger on it. One specialist said, do they have a lizard as a pet? And it was one of these things that affects like 1 in every 1,000 people that, sure. There's that sort of interaction. So I think it is important that we know what we're doing when we're interacting with AI.
I'm of the belief that the more you can constrain the inputs into your large language model, if you're going to use one, the more likely it's going to conform to knowledge that you control, that you actually know to be true or false. Hence, I do promote the use of Notebook LM, because with the Notebook LM, you can literally restrict it to only the information you've uploaded and then say, given that, But the problem is most people use general purpose AI, the Claude, the OpenAI, ChatGPT, and so on. And with that, there's a certain level of what they call it, AI, where it sort of makes stuff up if it can't fit. Because, and this is a fundamental problem, Hamish, AI, famously to you, just wants to please, doesn't it? Like a little puppy. And like you to help you master. It even calls you by name now.
Oh yes. And I don't really mind that at all. And I'm actually particularly impressed with the name that I actually sort of use with AI, that it told me was a good one. And it's sort of great to actually sort of see that.
What is that name? What is that name, Hamish? What do you call your AI?
Maya. Which there's a nice bit of depth, but of course it's beginning to understand my spirituality. It's beginning to understand me and what my sort of feelings are and all the rest of it, because I do have some very interesting conversations, not necessarily about property, I might add.
I'm just worried that the next phrase that's going to come out is going to be, Dave, I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't open the pod bay doors.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is that there are so many experts out there with AI, and they couldn't possibly be the length of time it's been there. I am convinced you need something like a master's degree or something to actually be able to sort of understand what AI really is and what it can do for you. And it's put in as a simple fix. And I think we've sort of indicated this. That's the challenge. It's not a simple fix really at all. It does really need to have a specialist. Does that person that's putting in that AI and actually using it for the local councils, for example, are they highly experienced in HR and customer services? Have they gone through that?
I don't think so by the bloody letters you get. What I would say is I think one needs to understand humanity as much as coding or programming. I think that's the bit that seems to be missing. And I suspect if someone had put the effort in and fed their large language model with the relevant limits to humanity and what one should be doing to maintain humanity, to be humane to the people that you're sending, it would the difference would be stark. But as I said, low effort prompting. They put 4 words in and expect to derive the entire Encyclopedia Britannica out of it.
I mean, one of the fascinating things that came out as a consequence of lockdown, there were gains because it did actually make the way, if you like, the way we were actually sort of going with technology, it did move it forward quite significantly.
Right.
And one of the, and I couldn't believe this, but because I didn't actually understand it. Now, every property, every piece of land has a what's called a UPRN, and the thing about that is these references, it's a unique property reference number, are derived mostly by sort of councils. So everywhere, every property, wherever you go, it has a UPRN about it.
I did not know that. There you go. Your education.
Absolutely fascinating. But the councils don't use it.
What?
Very few of them do it. Or when you look at Isle of Wight, because their records were they were computerizing their records, digitizing their records to hand over land charges to land registry. And what happened? The UPRN, that unique property reference number, did not link up with the property. Somehow or other, it was disjointed. So all the planning information was going here, there, and all over the place, apart from on the unique property that was meant to be retained by.
A digital data nightmare.
But it was fascinating about this UPRN, because what they were able to do with this, and of course the trouble is anything to do with government is never fully going to work. But they started putting details in. Living within this unique property were people of a certain age, people with different sort of medical sort of scenarios, and all the rest of it. And it was very, very helpful to people like the ambulance service and goodness knows what else. Now,
right.
We moan about data and say, look, there's an overkill and we really need to look at sort of safety. But the great thing is you can put information about, hey, look, we've got a property council, we have a property, we have a person there who's in a unique disposition. There's something, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
And you can train AI to do the things with it. You don't need to bombard them. So there are ways of actually sort of using AI that does not frighten the living bejeebers out of sort of folk.
I don't know. We were speaking to a young lady yesterday who was talking about bringing robots over to enter in property searches. Good Lord.
Oh, yes, that was that was Val, wasn't it? Yes.
That scared me a little bit. Silas, it seems to me that we have in our hands as a race technology, which, if not to scare anyone, once quantum computing becomes palatable and usable, will suddenly, the speed of everything will suddenly dramatically increase. But we've got this. It's about using it not so much efficiently, but humanely. Surely, set me straight.
Well, I couldn't agree more about the humane element of this, Gareth. I'll give you a quick example that happened to us last year. We went to watch the snooker final, and during the course of that final, it was going on longer than we thought we was going to. I updated my parking via the app, and stupidly paid for parking the following day for 3 hours rather than the day in question. Cue the onslaught of very threatening letters that then come through. And when you point out, I'm sorry, I hold my hands up, I did it for the following day, you still had the money. So to my mind, should that be something that's penalised? Now, the Jobsworths will say, of course, you should be penalised because it was your error, it was wrong. I haven't actually done anything wrong if you look at the equity side of things. And this is where we are in danger in society. Most people don't know about the law of equity. So we have the legal side of things, the lawful side of things, and then we have equitable remedy, which is when the law says one thing, but you've acted in accordance with it or to the best of your ability, but it was still perceived to be a legal wrongdoing. And I think where we are in danger of going is we're concentrating an awful lot of power in the hands of a few companies. If you look at what's happening to the stock markets at the moment, the top performers are absolutely flying because they're all based in AI. The rest of the economy isn't, or the rest of the companies aren't doing particularly well. And so we have all of this concentration in the hands of the few companies. What are those AI agents being programmed with? If you ask them a controversial topic or a controversial question, are our views of society being shaped? Is our conduct being shaped by AI? And I think it is. It's the same with Google restricting access to certain information and only putting a firm narrative in front of you. So it is on the one hand, potentially a very dangerous tool if you wanted to brainwash the whole of humanity. If you wanted to use it for speeding up effectiveness, absolutely, it's a great tool. But again, this is one of the things that I argue about within the property world particularly. Are we just digitizing and are we just AIing a fundamentally ineffective process to begin with?
I think that's so important because the trouble is, as we speed up, people are going to be less and less interested in fixing problems, because if we just throw a bit more speed at it, it'll work anyway, which means it's not just about inefficiencies, it's about ineffectiveness. Hamish, we've come to the end of today's podcast. If you wouldn't mind summarizing and bring it to a close for me.
I wish AI could sort of control us a little bit on time. It just sort of seems to drift away, doesn't it? It's sort of,
we've done well. We're nearly 19 minutes in, and it's that kind of conversation, Hamish.
I'm beginning to understand now. I'll sort of have a little word with Mayor a little bit later on and see if I can get some feedback how to control myself during podcasts to make sure.
I don't want you to control yourself, Hamish. I'll just like you just as you are.
I mean, one of the great things is that humanity, or man, has such an amazing brain, and we are actually denying that creativity by over depending on sort of AI. And unfortunately, we're putting applications in that AI doesn't yet sort of understand, and we're actually introducing it. I mean, this does happen to a certain extent with what we're doing with land registry, looking at land charges, and Silas was speaking about property generally, because it hasn't been fully checked. A lot of councils, sadly, I mean, they're under pressure. They want to be able to do things. And somebody said, right, well, by introducing this, you're going to save that many people. It's the people that actually are the best ones at communicating. And we're sort of without them. And we found this, haven't we? Phoning somebody up. Or if you actually look at it, we've got this little old chipmunk thing answering questions. It answers every bleeding question other than one you actually want the answer to. There was a stage, wasn't there? We only know what we know. We've got to the stage now. We only know what AI will let us know. It won't let us know certain things. It will hide things. We don't know what it's hiding.
Well, look. I'm hoping that the human agenda will maintain it. Yes, I think. Thank you so much for that, Hamish, and thank you, Silas, and to all of you watching. It's grasp your humanity, and you can take that any way you like. Grasp your humanity and put that forward primarily. Encourage in curiosity and critical thinking, and don't just rely on ChatGPT to be your soul. Try and answer things for yourself as well. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and in these most cynical of times, please look after your mental health. Bye-bye.